The humans and the demon clan join forces against a more powerful foe. The battlefield is filled with the corpses of soldiers. The only ones left standing are a beautiful blonde woman known as the hero and the silver-haired man known as the demon king, Igris. They see a vortex open up in the black sky. Slowly, a pale hand with sharp claws appears out of it. The Igris and the hero await the creature's whole appearance as they are anticipating their deaths. Out of the portal is a hooded cloaked figure with an unseen face, 6 arms, and a glowing eye peeking out of the cloak on its midsection. The demon and the humans call this type of creature the outsider. The hero pulls out her sword and makes a slash that makes the creature explode. Once the smoke clears, it is obvious that the outsider did not receive any damage. It nears the hero to eliminate her. The Igris readies a magic energy beam, distracting the monster before it gets the hero. He unleashes the energy blast with all his power. This manages to turn the outsider into ashes. The duo feels relieved that they finally have their victory. Their relief feels premature as they witness multiple vortexes open up in the sky in succession. Each vortex unleashes a unique giant monster with different features. In front of the duo appear countless monsters that outmight them individually. Igris resigns himself to the fact that this will be their last battle together. He proposes that they make their last stand count. The hero tells him that there are still options left and unleashes magic that surrounds the mellow and golden aura. She explains that it is a power that can send a soul elsewhere in time and space. She elaborates that she has died once and got reincarnated into the Igris world, that the goddess of reincarnation granted her the skill to reincarnate again. She says that she will give the gift to him instead. Igris touches the golden light and feels like it is a power greater than anything he has ever felt. The hero reviews that the outsiders appeared 3 years ago, and those few that did mass reproduce until they were countless. She tells the demon that she plans to send her to a time before the outsiders appeared. Her plan is for him to eliminate the outsiders before many of their companions die. Igris objects and asks why she is sacrificing herself when she can use the reincarnation spell on herself. The hero admits that she values his life more than hers. Igris remembers their first meeting when the hero charged into his castle and was ready to face him with a ready pull of her sword. Instead of fighting, the two ended up talking through their conflicts. Eventually, the humans and demons celebrated unity. In these peaceful days, everyone was happy, and the hero and Igris were close friends. He remembered one of their nights talking and realized he was in love with Val, the hero at first sight. Back in the present, Val tells the Igris that the caster of the reincarnation spell needs to die for it to activate. She looks upon the monster surrounding her and sees that this will not be a problem for her. She smiles as she says that she is about to make her grand exit as the hero. Igris tries to stop her, but he can't get out of the golden barrier Val put him in. Val tells him that since this is the end, she wants to admit something. She continues that there was a reason that she did not immediately strike him when they first met. She smiles at him as she tells him that she fell in love with him at first sight. She charges at the monsters while the Igris watches helplessly. She sees the woman slash through monsters until she gets overwhelmed by their numbers. He screams in terror as he sees the woman he loves die. There is a huge arena known as the Royal Slave Arena. In one of its cells, a young man named Mello practices his sword slashes with his sword. The guard disturbs his practice as he approaches with a plate of food for him. The man spits on the plate. He then gives the plate to the disgusted boy and tells him that he added his special spice to it. The guard laughs at his fate for being a slave because his mother poisoned his father. The boy shouts at the guard that his mother is innocent and that she was framed by a jealous noble woman. The guard instantly punches him on the head. The young man falls to the floor and his plate of food is spilled all over. The guard tells him that saying that a noble woman is a vixen is contempt for nobility and stomps at the kid over and over for it. The boy remembers the sad memory of his commoner-born mother being wrongfully accused and arrested for a crime. Even without evidence, the woman was executed for the crime of killing a noble. The guard grabs the boy by his hair and tells him that he should understand his place by now. He then lets go and says that he is only stopping himself from beating him up further because he has a big match tomorrow. He advises the boy to consider his match with a noble a great honor. The boy tells him that he will win with his father's warrior's blood. The guard laughs at his boast of himself and tells him that an untrained man like him will have no chance to win with a blunt sword. The boy replies that a blunt sword is still a sword that can still pierce through an enemy's flesh. The guard laughs as he leaves and leaves him with his little dreams. The boy reaches for his sword on the floor. He grips the handle and feels pain. He sees that his hands are filled with rashes and blisters. Despite this, he grips the handle with conviction. He trains his slashes knowing that winning means a chance for freedom. He slashes over and over to get used to handling the weapon. The next day, the boy enters the ring with his opponent, who is an armored boy who seems just as young as he is. Gaston, the noble he is about to fight, sarcastically sympathizes with him for turning into a slave because he has a commoner's blood. He tells the slave that he feels lucky to have the opportunity to take down someone with Habsburg blood for his dip-butt match. The slave boy shames him for trying to earn an unfair victory. Gaston tells him to stop complaining since birth has always determined everything in their world. He brags about how glad he is that both his parents were pure-blood nobles, making the slave boy grit his teeth. Gaston calls his father the special balcony seat among the crowd and asks that he witnesses moment of glory. The father looks at his boy with a mischievous smile. The referee asks Gaston first if they can begin before they do. He warns the competitors that magic is not allowed. Both agree to the conditions. Gaston grabs the slave boy by the shoulder as if they were friends and whispers to him that it would be no fun if he roasted him with fire magic anyway. The slave boy cringes with his hypocrisy when he is already in full gear armor in front of an opponent with none. The referee raises both sides and shouts for the match to begin. The crowd of nobles goes wild as both combatants are ready to draw their swords. Gaston rushes at the slave boy with an intent to kill him. He strikes over and over, but the boy can only use his sword to block. Gaston laughs about how he can't do anything else. The slave boy's face is already filled with slash marks as he struggles to keep his attacks at bay. He can tell that an untrained person like him has no chance against someone who has formal training. He drops his weapon and asks Gaston to stop. Gaston looks confused at what he is doing. The slave boy tells him that he understands that he can't win and surrenders. Gaston laughs at how pathetic he is. He does not accept his surrender and says this matches to the death. The slave boy realizes that he is at death's door. He runs away from his opponent as fast as he can. This enrages Gaston, who thinks he is disrespecting his debut battle. He yells at him to stop and says he needs to kill him for his glory. The slave boy suddenly stops and faces him with a brave look. Gaston is confused. He attacks the slave boy, but with careless swordsmanship, something the boy countered on the moment he intentionally confused him by fleeing. The slave boy dodges each of his attacks with ease now. He then counters by going for Gaston's face. Gaston smiles and summons barrier magic. The spell breaks the slave boy's sword into two. It is revealed that the barrier is a phantom shield that dwarfs Gaston's height and width and stands in the way of the slave boy's sword strike. The slave boy reminds the referee that magic is forbidden, but the official tells him that he did not see it because of dust in his eyes. The angered slave boy tells everyone that they are rotten. Just before he finishes his rant, Gaston tries to strike him, causing the slave boy to drop what's left of his sword. He intends to attack him more despite the opponent now being unarmed. Gaston readies his finishing blow. He then stabs the slave boy in the chest. The crowd goes wild as the boy lies helpless on the floor. The referee announces Gaston as the winner. The slave boy's eyes are still open and are filled with dropping tears. Slowly, his eyes close and his consciousness fades. His eyes suddenly open back, but they are the red and sharp eyes of the Demon King. Meanwhile, Gaston is busy asking his father from his balcony seat if he has seen his glorious victory. He gets confused as he sees his father looking at what is behind him with shock. Gaston senses an aura of danger behind him. He looks to see that the slave boy stands tall. He asks him how he is still standing after he has pierced his heart. He loses his confident personality and is left in a cold sweat. The slave boy dashes toward his opponent without a sword. He jumps high with the intent to drop at Gaston. Gaston frantically calls for his magic barrier. He tells the falling boy that he is a fool if he thinks he can break the shield when he did not have a chance before with a sword. The slave boy's kick pierces through the shield and he manages to kick him in his chest. The air gets sucked out of Gaston. The noble boy's body gets thrown and skipped until he crashes into the wall. The boy's father is speechless in shock, as well as the rest of the crowd. Demon King complains about waking up to encounter terrible nobles. He declares that his new name is Mello and that he is the Demon King. Later that night, Gaston's father went to the arena manager to yell at him for failing his promise to have his son battle someone he could never lose to. The monocle-wearing manager smiles and speaks professionally as he tells the agitated parent that they cannot overturn the results. The father slams his desk as he demands a refund. The manager shows him the contract and reminds him that he signed it. The father grates his teeth, unable to say more. Manager grabs him by the collar and threatens to file a case with the royal court to stop him from complaining further. He lets go of his neck as the manager switches to this professional attitude and tells him that he is still willing to fix things. He says that he will use the prestige of the arena to show the slave boy hell. He tells his assistant to tell the noble what he means. His young slave assistant tells the father that the slave boy's next opponent is known as Ains the Head's Man. The noble is glad to hear that he will be facing someone known for his mercilessness and ferociousness. The manager promises the slave's brutal demise. He asks if this satisfies the noble. The noble laughs hard and voices his excitement for the match. He adds that the manager makes the catch as flashy as possible as he leaves the office. The assistant asks his boss why he is doing so much to placate a noble. The manager reveals that all he said was just a facade and that the Evans family ordered the slave's termination. The assistant is shocked to hear that the prestigious family who descended from the divine warrior himself is involved. The manager knows that all of this is just a precaution from the Evans family since they will never treat the slave boy as part of their own. The next day is another morning for the arena. From one side of the ring is Ains the headsman, and he wears half a mask to hide his disfigurement and hold the sight as a weapon. The manager is among the audience, smugly anticipating Ains's victory. Mello looks at him from above with disdain. Ains cackles at the thought of having his way with the slave boy. He threatens him that he will cut off and collect his head like many others. The boy remains calm as he reminds Ains that the match has already started. Before Ains can react, the slave boy's wooden sword is already inches away from Ains' face. Ains tries to block it with his hand, but it just ends up being hit. Both his hand and his mask break from the impact. He is sent flying with his facial disfigurement exposed for the arena to see. Ains falls incapacitated on the floor. The crowd and the manager are in shock to see a boy with a simple wooden sword take down the vicious killer. The crowd goes wild with cheers. Later backstage, Mellow slave boy is alone in deep thought, yet every other prisoner there is staring at him. They talk to each other about how the boy managed to have 8 consecutive wins after beating Ains. They marvel at how he stuck to a non-lethal way of combat all throughout. Meanwhile, Mello is thinking about how his strength is still meager compared to his previous life. He ponders that it must be because of the boy's body. From the memory of the boy, he learns that his lineage holds the bloodline of the divine warrior. His plan now is to continue to rise as a slave gladiator and see what will happen. He looks around and sees that many of the slaves are staring at him with intense pressure. He smiles as he intends to use them as sparring partners to get his peak strength back. Meanwhile, the manager is frustrated by the slave boy's consecutive wins. He reviews how the Evans only has ordered him to make sure of the boy's death. He watches as not only the slave boy gets another victory, but also how the spectators have turned to his side. He fears what the Evans family will do if he can't take out the boy. His assistant assures him that he does not need to worry. Meanwhile, Mello is in the middle of the ring, and he realizes that he is surrounded by other slaves all smiling at his demise. The assistant announces that they have arranged a special match between the slave boy and 10 opponents. Meanwhile, a messenger comes into the manager's area with urgent bad news. He announces that the head of the Wilson family wishes to speak with the manager. The manager ponders what this means. Meanwhile, the 10 men armed with weapons stare down at the slave boy. As Mello anticipates their first moves, he reviews that his vessel's name is Neo Habsburg and that he came from the clan founded by the Divine Warrior. As he battles through his opponents, he reviews that the Evans family is the main branch family, but that there are also over 10 branches of families who are among the prestigious nobles. He says that despite the Habsburg family being part of the nobles, they are also known to be a family with no skilled swordsmen. He tells of a succession contest among the noble families to be the next Martian god, and how the Habsburgs have no suitable candidates for it. One by one, Nello eliminates his opponents. He closes his eyes mid-battle and recalls Val's smiling face. One of the opponents dashes towards him to attack while his eyes are closed. Mello reopens his eyes and then strikes the sneaky opponent. Mello realizes that he needs the power and position of the Divine Warrior to defeat the outsiders. His last opponent falls. He plans to rise as a swordsman and be called upon to join the succession contest. A woman with pink hair approaches him and asks if his name is Mello. He praises him for his skill to outmatch 10 slave gladiators in a battle. She asks a favor of him with the promise that she will restore his and his mother's honor. Nella smiles. A horse carriage is traveling in the woods. Inside are Mello and the pink-haired woman who wants to make a deal with him. She has explained so far that she belongs to the Wilson family, which also has a line with the Divine Warrior alongside the Evans family and the Habsburg family. Her family is blessed only with girls, which means they are unable to produce a male candidate for the succession contest. She elaborates that they are in danger of being dismantled, which is why she wishes to adopt Mello into their fold. She proposes that he represent the Wilson house in the Divine Warrior successor selection trial. The boy wants to make clear that the reward for his doing this is that she clears his and his mother's names. The girl makes clear that what she is asking is for him to stake his life. She elaborates that the Divine Warrior training is dangerous with many fatal duels between the candidates. If he gets high results in the process, he will also be a target for assassination and poisoning. Mello reviews that her goal is to adopt him into the family so he can be their male candidate for the trial and ensure the Wilson bloodline does not die down. He asks why she is telling him all the downsides if it will give him more reason to refuse. She answers that the Wilson family's motto is be frugal and pure, and that this means they will hold fairness and honor no matter what. She declares that she has decided to be open with him since she is asking him to risk his life. Mello is intrigued by her character and so asks for her name. She answers that her name is Olivia and that she is the head of the Wilson family. Mel is surprised that she does not look down on him despite his status as a slave and instead treats him with fairness and honesty. The carriage comes to a sudden stop, disturbing the two inside. Olivia comes out to see what happened. She sees that a huge monster bear has slain their force and is blocking their path. She calls the creature a devil grizzly. The Devil King realizes it is mating season and the grizzly must have come down in search of a mate. He sees that Olivia prepares for battle by pulling out her saber. She tells the others that she will handle the beast. Mello reminds her that they have the option to summon the nearby knights. She answers that there is no time for that and asks her attendant to escort Mello to his destination. Mello can tell that the girl is trying to contain her fear of the monster. She puts on a brave sword stance, but she cannot hide how much she is trembling. Mello tells her that she has no chance against the devil grizzly. Olivia replies that he should not underestimate her skill with her sword. Mello passes her way and gets in front of the monster. Olivia warns her that the beast is nothing like the swordsman he has encountered so far. She holds him by the collar and tells him not to act like a hero and risk his life. He looks at her and thinks that she is such a hypocrite when she was about to risk her life a moment ago. He smiles and tells her that he likes her personality. He faces the bear again while he tells Olivia that he will take on her case. He dashes towards the beast and thrusts his sword towards it. The strike sends the bear flying and its mouth foams. The bear destroys multiple trees as it gets pushed back. It eventually lands incapacitated. Olivia marvels at his strength. Mello looks at her and is reminded of Val. He promises her that he will always face the enemy before him head-on like her. They reach the castle walls where the succession trial will be held. Olivia tells Mello that this is as far as she goes. Mello enters the establishment and finds that the area is as huge and as equipped as a city. Everywhere he goes, he sees young men training with their swords, sparring with each other, or practicing their magic. The other candidates see Mello walking by and they mock him for being a slave and being a candidate for the Wilson family. Everywhere he goes, he finds himself feeling unwelcome. It just makes him excited that there are a lot of obstacles to overcome. Mello is looking around the facility trying to find the dormitory. A young man sees him and calls for his attention. He introduces himself with a friendly smile and says his name is Jasper. He tells Mello that he noticed that he is lost and he offers to help him. Mello ignores him and continues walking past him. Jasper catches up to him to try and continue what he was trying to say. He warns Mello that the map he was given by the gate is fake for the purpose of tricking him. He explains candidate bribed the gatekeeper to hand it to him. Jasper offers to guide him. Jasper continues being friendly as they walk together. He explains that the facility gathers men from all the noble family branches. After the trial, they will select who will be the divine warrior based on their swordsman skills and other abilities. Candidates will be classified based on their swordsmanship skills and other abilities with rankings from E to O or to S. The throne for the rank of S has not been reached for years. Jasper walks Mello into a building. Mello finds the place too gloomy to be the dormitory. Jasper warns him that the other candidates dislike him for his status as a slave. He opens a door to reveal a room full of men with wooden weapons waiting for Mello. They all look excited to have a piece of the slave boy. Jasper tells Mello that he is the same as the others who hate him. The men surround the slave boy. Jasper orders them to show their guests the difference in class. Mello reviews that Jasper has great political skills and uses his wealth and status to secure other families into his faction. Jasper's lieutenant gives his master a chair so he can relax while he watches the others beat down Mello. The lieutenant praises Jasper's plan to attack Mello. He believes this is the ultimate move to put fear into the other candidates and expand their faction even more. To him, his master Jasper is worthy of worship and to be the next divine warrior. Mello asks where he can get his wooden sword. The man laughs at him and tells him he will not have one. One of them puts his face near the Mello and tells him that this will be a one-sided beating. Mello sighs and stretches to warm up. 1 second, he's in the middle of the room and the next he disappears. He reappears behind one of the attackers and hand chops his neck. The man is left unconscious on the floor. One of the other men rushes at him, but Mello punches him and sends him flying. He tells the others that he is just warming up. Jasper becomes alert and stands from his chair. He wonders who the slave boy is who has just defeated 2 trained men in instant. He can't believe that he has overwhelmed 2 powerhouses with just his bare hands. Mello challenges Jasper to come into the fight by asking when he will show him their difference in class. Jasper admits to Mello that he has underestimated him. He voices his surprise that the Habsburg family was a lineage skilled in martial arts. Mello asks if he is going to fight him or not. Jasper says he does not think he will lose to him. However, he also tells him that he will let him go for today and leaves. As they walk, Jasper asks his lieutenant, Siege, if he knows why he backed out from the fight. He admits that it is because he knows too little about him. He also reveals that he knows of the slave boy's history of rising from the slave arena and being praised as a capable swordsman. For now, he wants to take advantage of the fact that they are the only ones who know that Mello was also a first-class martial artist. He believes it might be crucial in the upcoming trial. Siege praises his master's quick thinking. Jasper smiles as he plans to keep an eye on Mello from now on. The next morning, Mello heads for the bamboo forest. The trial ceremony examiner is a bearded old man, and he tells Mello that what he is about to go through is a ritual all newcomers go through. He orders Mello follow the path he is pointing at. He explains that there is a stone monument of the first divine warrior and that he needs to learn what is written on the monument to be recognized as a qualified candidate. He warns Mello that the bamboo forest is a breeding ground for thunder tigers. Mello recognizes that thunder tigers are ranked monsters. The old man elaborates that beasts attack in packs and have earned recognition as a disaster from most nations. The old man says he is testing his courage and that he will not encounter any beasts if he takes the right road. Mello casually walks into the path. The examiner complains that he entered without walking and warns him to follow the signs carefully. As he observes the young man walk further, the old man wonders if he is brave reckless. Mello continues to walk without disturbance. He stops as he sees a sign telling him the direction of the monument. One of Jasper's men is above a bamboo tree as he observes. Mello follows the sign. He smiles at seeing the young man follow his fake sign. He says that he has done this since the slave humiliated him. He hopes that the tigers eat him alive. After a while of walking, a thunder tiger jumps toward the Mello. The young man pulls out his sword and cuts the beast in two. He hears growls from his surroundings. He gets approached by more thunder tigers. They surround him from all angles. Mello warns them that he was once the Mello and that he will not ignore the challenge of any beast. The old examiner enters the path and sees the fake sign. He ponders that this must be the work of one of the candidates. The old man runs to find Mello. He then stops as he sees a pile of dead thunder tigers. He is shocked to see so many of them slain. Mello appears. The old man remembers the past when it was unthinkable for candidates to take on a pack of thunder tigers. He is glad to see that there are a few this year, including Mello, who can take them on. Mello tells the old man that he has confirmed the inscription on the monument and asks what his next step is. The examiner asks him what he desires with power. Mello looks above and answers that his goal is to reach the heavens. Olivia is in the guest lodging facility of the succession test site, and she is minding her own business and drinking tea on her own. Two women in the lodge see Olivia and gossip about her nominating a child of Nick's low-blood slave as a candidate for being a divine warrior. They laugh at how disgusting and shameful she is for doing so. Olivia approaches their table and spills her tea on one of them. Olivia tells them that they should not mock Mello. The woman she spills on gets angry and tells her that her slave will eventually fail. She declares to await the time her slave fails, so that Olivia can get even more humiliated. She huffs and puffs while her friend stops her from attacking Olivia. Olivia tells her that she is prepared to face any challenge that comes to her. The pink-haired girl walks the bamboo woods while she recalls Mello effortlessly defeating the devil grizzly. She knows that there are many other candidates who can do the same, making Mello's chances to rise as a divine warrior extremely low. Despite this fact, she cannot help but feel like Mello is special. Even if she does not know why, she comes across a hut. Suddenly, the old examiner is behind her. The old man asks if Olivia needs something from him. This alerts her, making her ready to pull out her saber. She feels uncomfortable that she did not see him coming. She can tell from a glance that while the old man looks gentle, he is actually the first divine warrior. The examiner tells her that she is making a good fighting stance, then transitions to complimenting her body. Olivia comes to realize that the first divine warrior is a pervert. She tells him that she came to check up on the candidate sent by the Wilson family. The examiner instantly realizes who she is talking about and asks that he show her something. The woman follows him until she sees a pile of thunder tiger corpses. The old man confirms that this is Mello's handiwork and admits that he has never seen anyone do something like this before. Olivia realizes that Mello is on another level than she thought. The old man asks her to keep the boy's handiwork a secret. He says that it is because Mello will receive special treatment if everyone hears about this. The old man tortures the tiger corpses and prays for them. He then tells Olivia that Mello will be the wild card of the succession test. Olivia quietly sinks this information in. The old man then says farewell to her since he will need to conduct the trial ceremony for the last candidate. Someone approaches. The old man looks intrigued that this mystery person came to him. Later, hundreds of all the divine warrior candidates gather in an assembly hall. Aaron, one of the 10 sword saints, announces the selection exam to begin. The candidates talk about Aaron like he is some sort of legend for climbing the ranks through his skills despite having no special bloodline. One of the candidates interrupts Aaron's speech to tell him that he should address them more formally since they are of noble bloodline. Aaron laughs as he expects a shikamat to come his way. The sword singer inhales and then stares at the candidates with intensity. Most of the candidates, including the complainer, get blown away like an invisible force pushed them. Jasper deduces that Eren's raw fighting spirit is enough to send people flying. The Sword Saint yells out that family status and bloodline do not matter in his halls. He declares that pure strength is the only thing that matters in the exam. Eren then is shocked to see that one candidate remains standing among those near him. Mello is simply dusting off his shoulder like nothing eventful just happened. Everybody wonders why the slave boy did not get blown away. Eren and Mello stare each other down. The Sword Saint rushes towards the slave boy while ready to pull out his big sword. The candidate tenses up, not knowing what will happen. Eren pulls out his sword and strikes at Mello. He stops just an inch away from hitting his neck. He asks the slave boy what he did not dodge. Mello tells him he noticed all the signs in his body language that said he had no killing intent. He says with calm that he does not bother to dodge attacks that he knows will not hit him. Eren smiles. He asks the slave boy to get into a sparring session with him. In this world, the Evans School of Swordsmanship transcends national borders and is known across the world. Dojos in the street carry their style of teaching. Private tutors teach noble children with this style. The Evans even serve as military advisors to various nations. The disciples of the Evans number over 1 million. From divine warriors to novice swordsmen, the Evans have influence over them all. Eren was once a child of a commoner origin who one day rose to be the third among the Sword Saints. In other words, he stands in the second percentile among the Evans school. At the present, he is about to begin a sparring session with one of the divine warrior candidates, Mello. He begins by enhancing his physical abilities. Activating the skill also activates a powerful gust of wind around Eren. The onlookers are impressed by the powerful forces the Sword Saint can unleash just by enhancing his physical abilities. Mello feels relieved to be facing an opponent of Eren's caliber. He wears a mischievous smile as he feels his blood boiling and heart pumping. Eren can tell Mello is getting excited to face him. He can't tell if the boy is a fool or a genius. The Sword Saint makes his fighting stance. Both men look happy to face each other. Mello can read that Eren's personality is bold, rough, and steadfast by the way he is running towards him. He can also tell that his physical abilities are at an extreme and that he speaks with his strength. Eren jumps as he readies to strike at Mello. Just as he is about to bring his sword down on his opponent's head, a vision flashes through his mind. He senses the presence of the Mello beneath the slave boy. Eren does not understand and is in a panic. He remembers his childhood when he was a boy sparring with the first divine warrior. The old man told him that swordsmanship can be used for defense. He asked the boy what he thinks is the ultimate defense in sword play. The boy thought about it and then answered that it is to hone one's techniques and physical abilities until one reaches a level where no one can harm them. The old man told him that he was talking about the offensive aspect. He told the young Eren the ultimate defense is when he sees an opponent he can tell he has no chance to defeat. He should never be the one who strikes first, that he should only fight if he has no choice left. Back in the present, Eren's sword is about to hit Mello. A huge explosion occurs. The dust clears to reveal that Eren missed Mello and that his sword hit only the ground. Mello asks him why he attacked him earlier with no intent to land his hit and now attacked him only to change the trajectory mid-swing. The Sword Saint does not know why he did this himself. All he can think about is his mentor's words to never strike first against an opponent he knows he can't win against. The narrator says that the first divine warrior's teaching has been ingrained in his body for a long time. Eren's subordinate reminds the Sword Saint that time is pressing. Eren pulls back his sword and backs down from the duel. Mello is disappointed that he did not have fun. Eren takes a second look at Mello. He remembers seeing the demon within the slave boy and tries to figure out what he saw. Eren guides the candidates to the venue of the first exam. It is a huge room with many combat platforms. Eren informs the candidates that the first exam will be a battle royale where 10 participants will step onto a platform. He states the 3 rules for victory are to force your opponent to surrender, knock them out of the ring, or render them unable to fight. The last 5 candidates standing on the platform are those who passed the exam. Eren's subordinate is concerned that it is too early for them to weed out the candidates based on strength. His concern is that the exam is a bit harsh for candidates with varying ages and martial arts experience. Eren justifies that they need to experience such an exam to survive what will come next. He also states that the chances of passing the test are 1 and 2, making it avoidable for the weak and the strong to face off in the future. The subordinate now understands that Eren is looking for candidates who have the ability to adapt and strategize under sudden circumstances. Eren also tells him that this exam will be a chance for the candidates to gauge their rival strengths and techniques. He is excited to see what will happen. The first exam begins with 10 candidates in the ring, including Jasper. On begins to dash at Jasper. He is intercepted and gets off balance by one of Jasper's men. He and 2 others in the ring declare that they are Jasper's personal guards and that they will not let anyone touch their master. Jasper orders the three to take out the others and they loyally follow his order. Jasper takes his time observing the other platforms while his men take care of the fight. He senses someone powerful and observes the platform with a candidate with long white hair. He senses how his fighting spirit is so powerful. One of the candidates rushes at the white-haired one. Using raw fighting spirit, the white-haired one sends all the men on his platform aside from himself flying. Jasper marvels as he sends everyone off a platform. The one with white hair asks the referee if it is okay to eliminate everyone all at once. Jasper recognizes him as Max from the Evans family and the grandson of the first divine warrior. Jasper thinks that he might already be at the level of a sword saint. Jasper switches his focus to the platform where Mello is. All of Mello's opponents are in agreement that they will eliminate the slave boy first. They all charge at him at once. Mello dodges every one of their moves like he is flowing water. The candidates are getting frustrated that they can't hit him. Mello is disappointed that he is not breaking a sweat when his goal is to regain his full power from his opponents. Aaron is observing his intent. He is intrigued by the boy's movements and admits to himself that he has never seen such techniques in the Evans school. He can also tell that the boy is still holding back. He wonders if his strength even surpasses his. He takes it back as he believes he might be overthinking things. Aaron then observes that both Max and Jasper are also exceptional. The subordinate asks Aaron why he looks so happy. He replies that it will be fun to whip these candidates into shape. He believes that some of the candidates might even be prodigies strong enough to surpass the current divine warrior. Aaron is excited to polish them into shape. He promises to show them all hell. The candidates all dine at the dining hall. Jasper is busy planning his next move based on what he observed on the first exam. To him, Max is the top candidate to be the next divine warrior. The other is Mello. He believes that there is another promising candidate. Exactly as he thinks this, Jasper hears someone yelling at Mello. The man yelling approaches Mello while he eats alone and asks sarcastically if he wants him to keep him company. Mello says nothing to him. Jasper observes that he is Arthur of the Sterling family and that his skills are top tier. He thinks his downfall is his terrible attitude. Arthur tells Mello to drop out of the selection exam. Mello replies that he does not understand what he is trying to say. Arthur says that he is disrupting the order of the martial hall. He justifies that family status and bloodline are everything and that someone like him should never pass the exam. Mello continues eating as if he did not hear anything. Arthur spits at his plate. Mello simply grabs a different plate and continues eating. He tells Arthur that he does not understand a single word he is saying and that he just has to accept that they will never see eye to eye. Arthur tells him that as a Sterling, he will not have a chance against him in exams. Mello replies that he does not care. Arthur punches the dining table and breaks it into pieces. He threatens Mello with violence. Mello casually replies that he will play along if it is what he wants. Jasper intervenes and reminds them private fights are not allowed. He suggests that they settle things under the guise of mock training. He offers to oversee it himself. Mello and Arthur face each other at one of the platforms at the first exam, with Jasper observing them as the referee. Jasper sees this as a golden opportunity to see what both men can do. He assesses Arthur as someone who rivals those of the Ten Sword Saints, while he assesses Mello as someone who rivals a master. He wants Max and Arthur to join his faction, but believes that they are too aloof or prideful to do so. He sets his sights on Mello to join his faction instead. He plans to take his mother's relative hostage to do so. If he still refuses after that, he plans to eliminate him once and for all. Arthur tells Mello that he has just made the mistake of agreeing to a mock test since it is his default avenue to give people pain. He activates a spell that makes white orbs float around him like snow. Arthur reviews that this technique lets him predict his opponent's every move the moment they cross 5 meters from him. Jasper is familiar with his technique and admits to himself that even he will struggle to fight Arthur if he experiences this technique for the first time. He wonders how Mello will counter it. Mello asks if he can start. Arthur answers that he can, so Mello moves so fast that he disappears in the blink of an eye. He reappears behind Arthur. The big man realizes it, but Mello hand chops his neck before he can react. Mello says predictions are worthless if he can't react to his movements. Arthur falls unconscious on the floor. Jasper shivers and is in a cold sweat. He internally shouts that what Mello just did is impossible. There is a tale of Jasper, the unfortunate boy. 5 generations ago, the second in the Divine Warrior selection exam was placed as the head of the Blackwood family. He rose to become an elder for the Evans' 3 great families. However, his accomplishments feel incomplete to him because no Blackwood produced a Divine Warrior. He grew old and retired without his dream of a Blackwood Divine Warrior. One day, the Divine Warrior of that generation visited the Blackwood family for training. The Divine Warrior was so powerful, Blackwood top disciples seemed like children to him. On that day, the old head smiled as he devised an idea. He visited his daughter while she was putting her grandchild to sleep. The old man took her hand and dragged her with him. He looked mad as he decreed that she would bury the child of the divine warrior. He plans to achieve his dreams even if it does not happen in his lifetime. His daughter looked helpless as she was being dragged. People at the time questioned the old man's sanity. The Blackwoods became known as a family that practiced seeking strong bloodlines. Jasper's sister followed this tradition by being offered as a concubine to a member of the Evans family despite the man being 30 years the child's senior. Jasper was helpless as he saw his sister be taken away. The sister looked at him in tears as she left. Jasper tried to reach her, but the adults would not let him. Since that day, he thought deeply about what he should do to break the cycle that ensnared his sister. He decided he needed to rise to become the head of the Blackwood family and also become an elder of the Evans' three great families. Since then, he trained hard in his swordsmanship and used any manipulative trick in the book to climb to the top of the 100 Martial Hall and become the divine warrior. Back in the present, Jasper sees Arthur's unconscious body on the floor. He is too overwhelmed to process what just happened. He recalls Mello vanishing only to appear behind Arthur and take him down in one blow. He gave up trying to understand as he became focused on the realization that Mello is the key for him to rise to the top as he dreamed. He goes to his knees in front of Mello and bows in his presence in complete devotion. Mello asks what he is doing. Jasper answers that he humbly offers himself to him and asks to serve under him. Mello looks at him, unable to react. Jasper chooses complete submission to Mello. Later that night, Arthur is in a bus stamping at a table and complaining that Mello made a fool of him. A follower of his informs him that there are rumors that Jasper has become Mello's disciple. Arthur is shocked to hear the news. The follower continues to say that while Mello seems reluctant, Jasper is still aggressively trying to be his subordinate. Arthur's blood boils to hear it. He kicks his seat as he accuses Mello and Jasper of setting him up. He believes that the only way that he got knocked out with a single hit is if they cheated. He imagines that they have poisoned his food and dragged the argument to a mock training on purpose. He commands his men to tell him what family he hailed from. The dozen or so people yell out that he came from the Sterling family. He then orders them to tell him who he is. They answer that he is the man who will become the strongest divine warrior. Arthur enjoys their praise. He yells out that they are right as the man cheers. He promises to get his revenge on Mello. The instructors for the selection exam are in the middle of a meeting. Aaron announces that they will do the 5 rings sacred training by tomorrow. It is a controversial training method where the candidates seclude themselves for 3 months in the holy mountain where dragons dwell. The other instructors object since it is a certainty that 80% of the candidates will drop out. Aaron says the dropout rate is not a concern of his. He justifies that this is necessary to create the strongest divine warrior in history. He believes that this batch has what it takes to create that champion. He also tells them that he will take responsibility by training them for a month so they can hold their own in the holy mountain. He announces that they will conduct the selection for the sacred combat aura and that those who pass will proceed to the 5 rings of sacred training, while those who need extra training will undergo it under him. The next day, the candidates are gathered in an arena. The sacred combat aura is a secret technique devised for combating monsters. It is said that learning this technique is akin to learning the essence of martial arts itself. Max is called by an instructor to take the center of the ring. There, he activates his raw combat aura. It is so powerful that the other candidates liken its presence to that of a ferocious tiger. Aaron is impressed by him, especially since he can tell that Max is not even using his full power. An instructor then shouts at Mello for being unable to use sacred combat aura. Mello tells him that he never thought of ever learning it. He looks so smug about it that it confuses the instructor. The instructor asks how he passed his first exam without it. Mello wants to say he used demon aura, but he answers that he used martial arts instead. The other candidates laugh at him for being such a weakling. Jasper secretly thinks the candidates are fools for not seeing his lord's potential. He notices that Aaron and a few others notice the truth. It pumps the Sword Saint's blood to see a person so strong without knowing combat aura. Mello asks to go to the holy mountain anyway. Aaron touches him by the shoulder and tells him he needs to stay behind for an extra month of remedial training. Mello feels like he dishes himself for his need to stay behind. Aaron brings those who can't use sacred aura to the training hall. He teaches them all about the technique and how it will sharpen all their senses to the extreme until they reach the 6th sense. By then, they will be able to predict attacks from their opponent's subtle movements with near-future sight precision. Aaron tells them that they will first learn to dodge stones and wooden swords and then later dodge multiple arrows while blindfolded. He says that it is only when they can do what he asks will they be permitted to enter the holy mountain. Mello asks to take the arrow dodging test right away. The other candidates think he is full of himself. Aaron smiles as he thinks he can actually take it. He agrees to it. Mello puts on blindfolds. Multiple men with crossbows surround him from every angle. They all fire their arrows at the same time. The arrows draw near, but the boy is unmoving. He catches every arrow with both hands in an instant. Eren and the others marvel at how he even caught all of them. Mello tells Eren that he is wasting his time as he drops the arrow. A candidate is in the Holy Mountain, running for his life with wounds all over his body. He encounters a giant serpentine beast known as the basilisks. He stares at its scary eyes. It turns him into a stone statue. The beast topples the statue, breaking the head off the body. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Jasper has his eyes closed while facing a basilisk on his own. The beast tries to strike at him, but his alert senses let him dodge it. He slices off one of its limbs. He pulls out a thick and long needle, throws it at the monster's back with power strong enough for the object to exit the other side. He then chops off its head. He comments on how he no longer needs to worry about food. He thinks about how his Lord Mello got left behind. He wonders he is doing right now. Elsewhere in the mountain, Mello has put multiple basilisk corpses kebabbed on giant wooden stakes. He comments on how they will supply him with food for 3 months. He heads to a hut. In it are shelves full of books. He smiles at the thought of beginning his studies. He opens up the first book. He sees that the basics of sacred combat aura are the same as demon combat aura. Mello and the other candidates were provided books during their 3 months in Holy Mountain for them to learn about the sacred combat aura. The goal is for them to learn the prologue of the Evans family's sacred manual. Mello finds it funny that he ended up learning it. He thinks about Val and how her combat aura is graceful. He tries to find the right words to describe it until he ends up saying that her aura is beautiful. He finds motivation to master the techniques so Val would not look down on him. He remembers the army of outsiders he faced in the future. He gets determined to be as strong as ever. He spends his time reading. He spends it trying to collect a sacred aura on his palm. At times, he eats. At times, he meditates while bringing out his aura. While he enhances his aura, he also masters absorbing the basilisk aura into himself. He can feel the sensation of growing stronger. He finds the feeling exhilarating. 1 month later, Eren approaches his hut. He calls for Mello to answer the door. He opens it himself and sees the boy sleeping on a pile of books. He cringes at the way he looks while he sleeps. Mello wakes up and stands up. He tells Eren that he reads every book and puts them all into practice. The Sword Saint thinks he's joking. Mello replies that he already mastered a technique with similar fundamentals, so he learned fast. He talks about how he learned from the best in his past already. He activates his aura. The blue light overwhelms Eren so much that he wonders if the guy is even human. He describes his aura as beautiful. Mello turns off his aura and tells Eren that he has a problem with the Evans aura book. He elaborates that the book's instructions are inefficient. Eren grunts at him out of confusion. In the isolated cabin Mello was left in, an indignant shout of disbelief rang. Eren tells the haughty young man to explain himself. The manual was written by their founder and it should contain the best method of learning sacred aura. Based on the author alone, there was simply no way for there to be a problem. According to the records, is written that the founder, given the fearsome warrior he was, could cut an enemy in half from 50 meters away with his aura. However, not a single person in the Evans family was currently able to achieve that feat. Eren says that story is just a legend and even he can manage a few meters at best. With a confident and determined gaze, Mello says proof is better than theory. The pair head outside, where the young man's aura elegantly bursts forth, swelling around his body. Seeing it again, the Sword Saint can't but be amazed at what is achieved. People who don't know better would find it unbelievable that he couldn't use battle aura until recently. Mello asks if the founder intentionally hid the truth or if it was lost at some point. At this point, no one knows what really happened, but is completely capable of demonstrating what lies beyond the inefficient method written in the manual. The power enveloped his body, and while it's impressive, Eren doesn't see anything different, at least at first. Soon enough, he notices something happening with the young man's sword, and it's not just the sacred aura. With deadly focus, Mello gripped his sword tight and swung, sending a ripping slash that howled across the ground. The attack hits a tree far away and cleanly cuts the trunk right in half. Before them was the trace of his long-range strike. Eyeballing the measurement, he says it should be roughly 50 meters at least. The Sword Saint was stunned and astonished, having just witnessed a random boy replicate a legendary attack. He says that it's impossible and questions how he managed to do it. Fortunately, the trick itself is surprisingly simple. Mello gathers magic into his palms and makes it run along the length of his wooden sword. Finally, Eren realizes the answer to the long-time question. What he just used was nothing more than wind magic. Mello smiles as he gets the right idea. The 7 attributes form the foundation of a magic sword, and by using sacred aura as a base, they can infuse these magic attributes. With this method, even a wooden sword can turn into a versatile and powerful magic weapon. Such is the true method of using aura, which was developed by the founder of Divine Warriors. Eren studies the prodigious warrior and thinks about what may come. Recognizing both his wit and potential, a certain man comes to mind. so he advises Mello to hide the skill at least during the entire selection exam. If people find out that he can use that power, he'll get dragged into enough interviews to disturb his focus on the test. One might gain fame and fortune from it, but such things do not interest the young man who simply views the situation as problematic. He gets an idea and tells the Sword Saint to spread the method throughout the entire world. The absurd request is so surprising that he fails to react for a while. Finally registering what was being asked of him, Aaron shouted in shock and disbelief. An unknown slave had all to gain after discovering the method, but now he's giving it away so casually. However, Mello doesn't mind at all, adding that the Sword Saint would understand the logic of the technique. He won't be able to master it overnight, but it should be achievable someday. The skill itself was discovered by Val, and no one from this time knows how to use it. If they spread the knowledge, a human proficiency of aura will skyrocket, boosting their chances against outsiders. Aaron gets what's being asked of him and appreciates the offer, but the situation now makes him question who the teacher between them really was. 2 months later, the final day of the 5-ring sacred training came, and all the students were gathered. About 70 people remain after 30% of the class dropped out. A bunch of people reunite, and some of the strong ones take note of Mello, who they expected to reach that stage. Arthur curses him, still vividly remembering the humiliation he faced during their encounter 3 months ago. His lackeys ask if they should gang up on the young man. However, he tells them to forget about that as he has something more interesting to show. With a devious smile, he says he's going to show them the dark side. Mello's sacred aura burst forth, spinning and gathering like a tornado of sheer power. The onlookers are shocked, having heard that he didn't know how to use it just a few months ago. What's more, he's someone of lowly origin. The swirling deluge of aura dissipates as the instructor ends the test. While the next examinee is called on, Arthur scowled incredulous and skeptical over the overwhelming fighting spirit. People muttered and chattered as even the fools had begun to notice. That said, their understanding of the young man was far too shallow from the truth. It's not just the sheer amount of sacred aura that demonstrated his level, but also the refined and solemn flow of energy, which was now even sharper than it was just 2 months ago. Aaron looked at the students of particular interest. If the wild card is at that level, then he should be ready to enter the next stage. Having checked everyone's sacred energy, he lets everyone there pass the exam. However, there's no time to rest, especially for a divine warrior who's supposed to command respect and trust. The connections they build at the training hall will become lifelong assets as a divine warrior. With this, they move on to the next level of the selection process. They have to form a faction of at least 5 people and are allowed to create a new team as a leader or join an existing group. With the deadline set, everyone is told to do their best. A lot of them started to panic from the sudden order as gathering 5 or more people was no easy task. It should be easy for the former demon king who commanded tens of thousands of subordinates. First, he plans to dominate them with fear, then force them to be obedient with a bit of violence. Fortunately, no one has to worry about this as Jasper called out, congratulating him on passing the next test. This confuses Milo, but the smart contender says he's been his subordinate all this time, although he hasn't officially recognized it. Regardless, if he mobilizes the people under him, they can gather more than 20 without any worries. Since finding people from scratch does sound bothersome, he tells the comrade to do as he wishes. Jasper clings to his boss, who just officially acknowledged their relationship. Arthur looked back with a dark smile, silently telling them to enjoy their moment of excitement. That night, the halls and rooms of the dormitory were silent. Mello slept soundly as usual, even snoring and drilling with comfort. A dark figure watched. An assassin was stuck to the wall, finding him foolish for having the confidence to doze off in such a situation. He took his blade and got ready to finish the young man right then and there. Diving down with the sword, he drove it deep into the bed, aiming straight for his target's heart to ensure a painful but surefire kill. He thought it would be over in a second, but the body on the mattress had suddenly disappeared. A chilling voice spoke, saying he picked the wrong person to try and assassinate. His body moved on instinct, but quickly froze as a sinister presence warned him, putting a knife to his neck. Mello was well aware of who sent him, and with merciless eyes, he ordered the man to bring him to Arthur. In the forest away from the dorms, mugs clinked as Arthur and his lackeys celebrated, certain that his annoying competitor had been dealt with. None of them expected that the Sterling family's secret trade would be none other than assassination. He mockingly turns to Jasper, who was bound and beaten, calling him a useless lapdog, barely able to breathe. The young man murmurs inaudibly. Someone suddenly worries and says it might actually be dangerous to kill other participants at the training hall. Arthur pays it no mind, reasoning that it's common for factions to fight to the death over power. They'll just tamper with their victims' bodies and clear themselves of any connections to their death. Finally, Jasper speaks and calls them fools. With resolute eyes, he says his master would never fall to scum on their level. His words take Arthur by surprise, not expecting the man known to be cold-hearted to find someone he trusts. He then goes on about the hostage family history and how his older sister was sold as a child concubine. To break the twisted tradition, he entered the Divine Warrior selection, but was still soft deep inside. He grabs the young man by the hair, reminding him that martial arts families work all by strengthening their lineage. If it were him, he would also glad sell his daughter or wife to a filthy old man. Just then, they hear a loud thud from behind and find the hired assassin on the ground tied up and beaten. Mello walked to them, calling to Arthur and saying people like him are what others refer to as scum. The veins on the dirty man's head nearly pop out from anger. Meanwhile, the master turns to his subordinate. He heard his story earlier, including the things he did to save his family. He thought Jasper only moved out of self-interest, but is glad to find that he also has conviction after all. Mello comforts the young man, telling him not to worry. The others staggered from fear as the Mello promised not to show mercy to those who bear their fangs at his family. Sensing hostility, Arthur acts fast and warns the enemy against moving another step. He puts his knife to Jasper's face, threatening to cut it down if he disobeys orders. Based on the amount and quality of sacred aura alone, he begrudgingly admits that Mello is better, but that's only if they fought head-on. So he tosses the prodigy a bottle filled with liquid. Catching it and taking a look, he sees that it's an aura circuit disruptor. It's a drug that forcefully stops the refinement of aura, and he needs to drink it. If he wants Jasper to live without injuries, not even taking a moment to think about it, Mello accepts the deal and downs the entire bottle without hesitation. Shown that it's completely empty, Arthur smirked in delight and triumph. He cackles surprised that the enemy actually drank it so willingly. Confident now that his powers are suppressed, he kicks Jasper away saying he's no longer useful. Now, the young man before him was nothing but a puppet who couldn't even use his sacred aura. Mello checks on and comforts his friend, who apologizes repeatedly for failing him. That said, it's foolish to let go of a hostage so easily, and it would do Arthur well to at least see his dirty methods through. Even as an assassin who thrives on cowardice, he is at the lowest of the low. Without physical enhancement, he's certain that the small boy is but a mere baby to him. Intending to take his time breaking him until sunrise, he unleashes a punch, which hits the target right in the face. He wanted to start by breaking the nose, but he found that the hand he punched with was broken completely. The realization takes a while to set in, but he winces and kneels in pain, not understanding how his fingers ended up disfigured. He curses Milo, demanding to know what he just did. It was diamond protection, a magical barrier that coats the body with hardness as tough as diamonds. They sweat upon hearing the name of an advanced skill which he has no business knowing. Borrowing his words from earlier, the young man says that his secret profession just so happens to be magic. With this, fear started to set in. Mello disappeared from their sight and reappeared behind Arthur in the blink of an eye. Not even giving them a chance to react, he kicks in the back, nearly knocking him unconscious. The foolish but brave lackey tries to fight, but is basically swatted away without any effort, surrounding his enemies with after images made by speed. He corrects their misconception that physical enhancement is exclusive to sacred aura. They could not be any more mistaken, and is there to prove it firsthand. In that moment, Arthur was subjected to a barrage of unending strikes, and all he could do was let his body move with each hit, unable to even follow the enemy's movements. His mind is the only thing that works, so he wonders what the boy meant. When he claimed to be a magician, carrying him by the collar, Mello stops the onslaught and recalls that they were supposed to stay together until sunrise. Arthur feigns defeat and backs away, raising his arms in surrender. He puts his head to the ground, admitting he was wrong and promising to apologize to Jasper in exchange for mercy. Since his prostrating himself so obediently, the victor decides to show some leniency. However, the man silently calls him a soft-hearted fool who's been holding back even with his finishing blows. Against his expectations, his arm is suddenly gripped tight and pulled to his back. With a demented smile, Mello says he'll deal punishment without death apology. He brought his hand down on the arm, and an ear-piercing scream rang throughout the forest along with a loud crack. With his face and fingers broken, Arthur screamed in pain as his arm soon followed, now split into two. Meanwhile, Mello ushered Jasper up saying it was time to go. While they left, the dirty competitor suddenly turned silent. He smiled, calling them idiots for not dealing the final blow on an assassin. Calling to his underling, he says they are going to start something new the next day. He watched his targets walk away and thought about poison, accidental death, sniping, and even an explosion. There are so many ways for him to kill them, so they better keep their eyes awake even when asleep. They aren't as oblivious as he thinks as Jasper asks if it's okay to leave like that, adding that Arthur likely hasn't learned his lesson yet. Honestly speaking, there's no point in dealing with him half-heartedly, but they'll fail the test if they kill a fellow test-taker. Mello tells his subordinate to watch and that he already has him in his palm. The next day, lunchtime came and Arthur was shocked to hear that his main underling was gone. He was supposed to do something important for their assassination, but others heard from the instructor that he was declined from the test and left the training hall. The boss was incredulous, not hearing anything about it yet. He looks around and sees another subordinate missing. Others saw him that morning looking pale and saying he'll be resting in his room today. Arthur is infuriated that they are skipping without letting him know and reminds them who's in charge. Turning to the nearest person, he leaves the next mission in his hands and addresses the rest of the people there, wanting another meeting held that night. The next day came and his eyes widened in absolute shock. He thought no one was going to miss the discussion, but not a single soul was in the canteen with him. Shaking, he questions why they were all absent. Just then, a loud banging came to the door. It opened up, and Aaron entered while calling to expecting him. Arthur asks why he was there during that hour. Having something to say, the instructor gets to the point and says that the 14 people in his entourage have all been barred from taking the selection exam. Not caring about his horrified reaction, the young man continues saying he still needs to form a party of 5 if he wants to participate in the next stage. Aaron leaves uncaringly, saying he has 5 days left to gather people. The once arrogant man was left there, all alone in an instant. Rain fell that night, and Arthur was bundled up in his room, trembling in fear. Anxiety had set in, certain that the reason for his misfortune was none other than his former target. He racked his brains desperately thinking of a way to gather enough people in such a short amount of time. Just then, huge and deep eyes appeared. Mello was beside him, looking lifeless and staring into his soul like a haunting spirit. He squealed in shock and ran right out of the dormitory room. Dashing through the halls, he questioned how the young man got into his room when he's sure that he locked it with a key. While rounding a corner, the same sunken figure appeared, not even looking in his direction. Arthur stumbled back and fell on his bum. He pathetically begged him not to come close and eventually sprinted away to save his life. The entire building seemed to be empty and silent, except for the heavy breathing in a lone bathroom stall. He tried desperately to calm himself down, at least for a short moment. Just then, he hears the door creak open. Trying his best to stay quiet and remain hidden, he stopped any and all motion. Unfortunately, a shadow crept up from in front of his stall. Without a way to escape, he curses himself for feeling afraid when he's part of the proud Sterling family. Although unable to stop his shaking, he steals his resolve and kicks the door open, supposedly ready for a fight. However, there was nothing and no one there. He did not even have a chance to feel relief as he sensed a sinister presence looming from behind. Arthur turned inch by inch as if that would change the result. In that moment, an ear-piercing scream rang throughout the entire dormitory. Arthur was drowning in terror, questioning what in the world the person in front of him really was. He snuck into his room out of nowhere and kept appearing all of a sudden no matter where he ran to. Backing away in fear, he asks how the young man managed to outwit him in the field of assassination. Since he still doesn't seem to get it, Mello lets him in on a little secret. He lists down a bunch of skills like transparency, camouflage, phantom, and a few others. In total, he cast around 10 types of invisibility magic just to reenact the hidden miss technique. That said, only 10 people in the world know how to use it as it's a secret sound elimination ability. The young man before him replicated it with magic and did so without breaking a sweat. Mello reminds him how he targeted his family and how he'll pay the favor back tenfold. There is no room for excuses now, so the eyesore of a man is ordered to get out of the training hall immediately. Arthur's pupils trembled. Based on the eyes glaring at him, he knows that no matter where he runs or hides, Mello can and will kill him anytime. The next day came. Aaron, no matter how brash, was busy with work as usual. He looks at the exam teams that have been formed and are ready to take the next stage. Meanwhile, Arthur packed his bags and left the Warriors' Hall that morning. With this, 2 main candidates remain for the title of Divine Warrior. Mello and Max were both strong contenders, and even he can't predict who's going to win. Meanwhile, in the Wilson family mansion, Olivia was deep in thought. She worried about Mello remembering the first Divine Warrior's comment, acknowledging him as a wild card in the selection process. Just then, a couple of quick knocks came to her door. A butler barged into the room, stuttering as he came with news of development on the boy they sent to the warrior test. According to a message he received, he is now a prime candidate to be chosen as the winner. At the same time, they just got an invitation for tea from the Evans family. She knew he was a talented person, but this level of success is far beyond her expectations. Accepting the invitation, she later arrives at the Evans mansion's Crimson Rose Garden. Present at the tea party were Max and Arthur's mothers, Rose and Myra, and Olivia as the Wilson family's representative. Starting things off, the host thanks them for coming despite the rather short notice. The Sterling matriarch says it's natural for them to deepen friendships since the Divine Warrior will be coming from their families. However, she criticizes the Wilson family's decision to adopt just to compensate for their inability. To make things worse, it's unfathomable that a likely candidate is someone who was a slave not long ago. Her words might be offensive to those involved, but she's simply stating the possibilities. She then brazenly says that Olivia might have seduced the instructor, which would explain it. Staring each other down after the downright insulting comment, a tense and cold breeze blew. Rose speaks gracefully, saying it's indisputable that Mello got this far, so they should stop prying for the reason. Mira gives a careless apology, adding that she didn't really care about him anyway. Their family makes a living through assassinations, and she's certain that her son can outwit Max. Just then, her family butler called to her with news. He came close to whisper notable developments, and the matriarch's eyes grew in shock and disbelief. She just received news that Arthur took the selection test, but was outright rejected. Given her reaction, they asked what was wrong, but she just stood up and abruptly excused herself, saying she had a pressing matter to attend to. The head quickly left, and Rose was not naive enough to miss the signs. With this, she realizes that the candidates for Divine Warrior have now been narrowed down to 2. She deems it better this way as the Sterlings are tainted with violence and inexcusably discourteous. The 2 ladies of the house then agree to play fair from that point onwards, closing her fan with a commanding snap. The Evans matriarch says Max seems to consider Mello his equal. In the first place, their family dictionary does not have the word defeat in it, but her son takes it a step further. He's not just aiming to be the divine warrior of this generation, but the title of hero has already been offered to him. It's the first time Olivia has heard of the hero title, which apparently is higher and better than the divine warrior. The information was supposed to be confidential, but Rose says it shouldn't matter. Humans have one common enemy, the demons, and ally every 10 years to subjugate them. People live in fear every day because of these monsters, unable to deal with them on their own. That said, it's also common knowledge that the 2 forces have been in a stalemate for 100 years. What the general public doesn't know is that something happened 3 years ago. God sent a divine message about a breakthrough, contacting an oracle through their dream. Supposedly a guardian of humanity, someone with overwhelming power was going to appear as their hero. Already realizing that they must be coming from the Evans family, Olivia asks if it's pertained to Max. Rose says it's exactly as it seems and that her son does not know the word defeat as he has never experienced it. Meanwhile, in the 100 Warriors Hall, Aaron gathered all the participants for the 4th exam. There were a bunch of people there, but only 2 leading candidates left. Aaron announces that the theme for this stage was dungeon strategy. Everyone marched to the labyrinth dungeon, which was made specially for the selection process. It contains terrifying monsters and challenges with traps from the depths of hell. After all that, there's a minotaur waiting at the end, and the first one to take it down wins the stage. They gather around the entrance, and the instructor is surprised to see the group of people behind Mello, who he thought wasn't the type to team up. To his side was Jasper, along with all the subordinates he absorbed. With a mere glance, it's obvious that their team is now the strongest in the hall. On the other hand, Max had no one by his side. The instructor asks why he was all alone, but the question is returned and is asked if that's going to be a problem. The purpose of the test is to see how one would perform as a leader, so everyone was tasked to group up. He argues that he has formed a team, but will still be taking the dungeon task alone. As such, he told his teammates to stay behind, which is confirmed is not against the rules. Aaron is stunned and wonders why he would want to take on such a mission alone. The strongest candidate states that he doesn't want people swarming around him and that it's as simple as that. While the instructor smiled at the problem child, Mello listened from behind, hearing what the competitor was talking about. He remembers Val, who he often talked to about fighting one-on-one. As the strongest among their sides, they serve as representatives, and like that, they can fight to their heart's content. Imagining her face, he thinks about the memory fondly and can't help but smile to himself. Mello thought there would only be boring people in the exam, but it seems he's come across interesting ones as well. 4 teams are competing, and examiners will accompany them to grade along the way. Seeing Mello's face, he asks if there's a problem. Since the dungeon looks complicated, the examinee asks if there are any conditions to fulfill. They are essentially putting their lives on the line this time, and useless people won't make it. Candidates need to learn how to be a leader and how to take on the responsibility of being one. The former demon lord smiles upon hearing this, interpreting this as being granted permission to do whatever it is he wants to. After a while, it's finally time to start the test. In the end, only a few of them will make it into the force. As Jasper thought about his master, someone called out to Mello, who was moving around the labyrinth's outer wall. He's holding a piece of paper and saying the right spot should be somewhere there. Pinpointing it, he imbues his blade with a concentrated mixture of magic and aura. While he stared with intense focus, the others tried to ask what he was about to do. The young leader thrust his blade, driving it deep into the wall. Everyone opened their eyes in shock as they saw the outer layer burst open. They asked Aaron if the walls can really be broken so easily, but this isn't true, of course. The stone in front of them was supposed to be as strong as the hardest materials in humanity. Jasper commends and praises him, but wonders why he just displayed his strength. Seeing his master stretch and wind up for another hit, he realizes what he intended to do and couldn't believe the ridiculous and unprecedented idea. Mello struck again and moved to the next, then the next, saying they should go in a straight line as it's the fastest and most efficient way to reach their goal. He smiles as he breaks through several layers of the dungeon, leaving the onlookers in shock and awe of his strength. The fourth exam is Dungeon Labyrinth Strategy. They have to move past ferocious monsters and countless traps. Whoever beats the Minotaur in the deepest part of the dungeon first will earn the most points. Well, this was the intention, but now the walls of the structure have crumbled and fallen. Jasper told his men to follow Mello blindly, but they couldn't help but be struck with awe at how talented their new leader was. The young men broke through another layer with a smile, slicing through it like butter. It's as expected by those who really know him, and if they continue with that pace, they'll score points even faster. However, even without rushing so much, they are probably going down in the record books. Meanwhile, Max was also standing by the outermost layer of the wall. Instead of palm you round like Mello, he gently pressed his finger in a single spot. Concentrating his energy, he pushed and willed it to break. Just like his competitor, he similarly breaks through the wall, but in a much more refined manner. The instructor is astonished by what he just witnessed. He's been working for the selection committee for 2 decades, but he's never seen a candidate like this. It's as if his eyes were fooling him as the young man seemingly intended to break through the dungeon. Risking disturbance, he asks what he just did. Max explains that everything has a breaking point. For living beings, it's a key point connecting all things, but also a weak spot that makes life vulnerable. That said, breaking them is simple, especially for him. If he's talented enough to follow such a method, then beating the labyrinth will be a walk in the park. The prodigy has always been the best, and he knows that it's going to be the same for this exam. Since he's already regarded as the best, the instructor wonders if he's aiming even higher. Max was worthy of the Evans name and the role of the kingdom's vassal. According to the map, the Minotaur should be just on the other side of this layer. As he pushes through the wall once more, the man wonders if people like him still really exist. The wall broke, but instead of the spot he was aiming at, it burst open elsewhere as the Minotaur's body barreled through. They stared at the beast in confusion, more so as they saw the state it was in. Before the Evans representative even reached the deepest part, the target had already been defeated. Unable to believe what just happened, they looked back and saw Mello unharmed and unbothered as he held his sword to his shoulders. With a smug smile, he says it's a shame as the prodigy was just one step away from winning. The mocking hits Max's pride. Always coming first in whatever he pursued, he was praised throughout his entire life. Everyone thought it was only a matter of time before he became the era's divine warrior. However, all that attention was now being directed at Mello, and everyone looked at him like a monster. For the first time since he was born, Max was facing an existence that was comparable to his own. Meanwhile, in the Evans household, Rose and Olivia were having tea. When the butler came with news about the dungeon strategy examination, she asked to hear it right away, not minding that there was a visitor, as she was going to find out anyway. It's an amazing coincidence, and it's intriguing how she's so certain that her son would win. The report reads that Max cleared the dungeon with speed beyond common sense. He destroyed the dungeon walls to reach the goal in the shortest route, drastically overriding records. Rose giggled and clapped in delight, proud of her son. Olivia hears about the shattered walls and says he really is a monster. To their surprise, the butler finally delivers the tragic news that his young master ranks second in the exam. On the other hand, the Wilson family's Mello ranked first, clearing the task even faster. Incredulous, Rose couldn't help but let out a ridiculous expression. Unable to believe her ears, Rose banged her hand on the table in fury, finding it impossible that her precious son finished in second place. Insisting that it must be a mistake, she asks if it really is the truth, but the butler can't lie. Olivia only adopted Mello to take the exam and wouldn't have minded if he dropped out halfway. That said, he always exceeded her expectations from the moment they met. Thinking about his feats, she wonders just how far he plans on going. With his results, she'll have to cancel his slate contract, and it should easy to restore his mother's honor. Just then, Rose spoke, saying she's afraid that people might misunderstand. Just because their matriarchs couldn't bear men doesn't mean the Wilson family can just adopt slaves. With a cold and threatening expression unlike her usual, she warns Olivia against thinking that she's beaten her family. She firmly states that the fourth stage doesn't prove the entire worth of their representatives. It must be a coincidence, and military will always be military, so she shouldn't start dreaming. Olivia says she went through the same exact feeling. At first, it was impossible to believe in Mello's strength. However, she quickly realized that his rapid improvement is neither luck nor coincidence. She can now confidently say that he is capable of surpassing Max. The bold and brazen statement catches Rose off guard. She sighs, regaining composure, and asks the visitor to go home as she's lost all her excitement. Olivia is annoyed by the nerve of the host who invited her there in the first place. Walking out and heading to a carriage, she sees the matriarch watching from the window, staring at her with burning eyes. He never expected her son to lose, so she decides that it's better to be careful. Calling to the butler, she says he must already know what to do. Bowing obediently, he says he's already started moving and lending a helping hand. He's excellent as always, giving the answer she wanted. The night deepened and a new day soon came. The selection examiners have a meeting, and the winners are essentially down to the two leading candidates. They've already been put through unique tests and trials, worthy of the title of Divine Warrior. If they train harder, the strongest warrior they've ever had will not be far from being born. While the others gasped at his statement, Aaron smiled in delight, proud to witness this moment as a warrior. Just then, they hear screaming from outside, asking someone to stop as people were in a meeting. Told not to nitpick, the intruder forced himself inside. An old man barged in, commandingly sticking his cane into the floor and asking who they thought he was. Even Aaron was shocked to see him there. The man was Walter, the Evans family's elder. He says he heard a rumor that there was someone who's as skilled as his descendant, Max. As such, he came there to make a request. He orders that the two engage in a match since it's better to choose the Divine Warrior as fast as possible. Karen protests, disagreeing with the idea and asking that they wait. To decide the true winner, he insists that they need to be put through more tests and training. It's forbidden to do something like that before the exam, even if it is a request from the elder. However, Walter does not care for the young man's opinion. This is how things are done for the Evans family. And if all three elders and four sword emperors agree, even the Divine Warrior selection can be overruled. The instructor scorns the old man who's trying to drag politics into the exam. He and the other 6 have already given their approval, so this was happening without question. Putting his foot down, he makes himself clear and says it's a command, not a request. Aaron barely stops himself from arguing again, but is told not to feel too bad. After all, there's no way someone he's never heard of will become the Divine Warrior. Later at night, the Sword Saint met up with Mello to inform him of the recent developments. To his surprise, the young man doesn't seem to be bothered, and simply asks when the duel will be. It'll be held in the afternoon 3 days from now, and the winner will be the fated warrior of the kingdom. Aaron apologizes, believing he should have spent more time training him. However, the young man says he's done all he can in the training hall, and it's more than enough. He's as confident as he always has been, but the instructor wonders if he'll really be okay. Brewing with divine aura, Mello declares that the warrior selection exam will end soon. The final battle day of the warrior selection has come, and both candidates were in their waiting rooms. They are only allowed to use a wooden sword, and the match ends when one surrenders or is unable to fight. Mello stands up, saying he has something to say. He extends his hand to Aaron, saying he took care of him until now. With this, he thanks the instructor for everything he learned. Unable to hold his smile and blushing back, he shakes his student's hand and says he'll be praying for his good fortune. With this, Mello walked the corridors of the training hall and stopped upon sensing an odd feeling. Barely turning around, he asks what an elder of the great Evans family was doing there. Walter chuckles at the boy's perception, saying he didn't even introduce himself yet. However, one can tell who he was without needing such niceties. After all, the former Demon King knows an ominous fighting spirit when he sees one. According to Aaron, the Evans family has one of the 3 great elders. They are both masters of the martial arts, but the first divine warrior was a complete opposite and felt like a sage. On the other hand, the old man's fighting spirit felt more like a demon's since he and Max were going to be competing. He came to see what type of person the boy was and deduced that Mello has the same scent as he does. He scoffs at the elder and asks if there's anything he needs, not having the time for this. However, it's nothing like that, but he did come with a small favor to ask. To his surprise, the man brazenly asks that he let Max win the duel later. The candidate can't believe what he just heard. Walter piles on, promising to make it worth his while should he accept the request. The entire Wilson family, including him, will be safe and secure for the rest of their lives. With this, the real purpose of the duel becomes clear. Unfortunately for them, Mello isn't rotten enough to settle for something like second place. As he turned away with the rejection, the 8 scolded him for being rude to a great elder, but Walter just laughed in delight. From a slave, the boy rose to the position closest to the divine warrior and was now acting arrogant. He gave a sinister grin, excited for the fight, and sure that Max was going to crush arrogance. Mello reaches the entrance of the arena and is asked if he's ready for the match. He beams with confidence, ready to go anytime. With this, the doors opened and he stepped forward. Only the candidates are able to go into the arena while everyone else watches from their seats. Now all the relevant people were there. Speaking to his opponent, Max asks if he's open to a quick chat before the battle. He says he was born to take the role, was brought up to be a king, and constantly trained for it every day. Before he realized it, no one his age could touch him, and he reached the pinnacle of martial arts. However, there are times when he finds himself fearful. Not far in the future, there might be a divine warrior who's going to surpass him. He's devoted his life to martial arts to become an unreachable being beyond everyone's grasp. It's possible to give it his all even without a worthy opponent. But what would he hold a sword for? The young prodigy vows to do his best to beat his enemies and exist in this world. Wanting to prove this to him, he takes his fighting position and lets his sacred aura roar. While Mello was unbothered, the audience was in awe of his overwhelming power, acknowledging that he really was on another level. Considering the display, some say he might beat the 10 Sword Kings and might be on par with the emperors. Rose watches and listens, amused and well aware that her son has far surpassed all the ranks they mentioned. After all, the child before them was a genius, incomparable to anyone they'd seen before. This might just be an exam, but she's looking forward to watching the demise of the person who stole first place from them. Telling him not to go down with one hit, Max dashed in, his eyes burning with concentration. However, he sees his opponent moving slowly and Whirly wonders if it's an invitation. He's convinced that this isn't the case and that the boy simply cannot keep up with his speed. His face becomes disappointed, mistakenly thinking that he finally had someone to call a rival. Although it's a shame, he swings his sword to end the fight quickly. Just then, their eyes met, and the wooden sword made contact. The sheer force of the strike sent waves of dust throughout the arena. The smoke and aura settled soon after, and while everyone thought that the battle was over, a familiar voice spoke. Max called himself a king, so Mello expected something more. Holding the sword in place with just a couple of fingers, he says his full power disappointed him. Seeing this, the prodigy realizes that he's been outmatched in the exchange, gritting his teeth. His usually calm demeanor is thrown out the window as he gives a crazed expression not unlike his mother's and tells the loser not to get too arrogant. Regaining his composure after the outburst, Max backed away to gain some distance. He glared right at his opponent's eyes and started gathering his power once more. The arena was filled with his sacred aura, and he unleashed it to fully enhance his physical abilities, glowing with strength and anger. He reveals his true form for the first time. Putting all his strength into the next few moments, the young prodigy charged in. He swung multiple times using a speed that would normally challenge even the greatest spiders. However, Mello dodged them all like it was nothing, not even suffering from a single hit. Watching the intense fight from nearby, Aaron was in awe of what his student was doing, unable to comprehend how he was avoiding everything within a hair's breadth. With the success of misses getting to him, anger started building up in Max's body. He swung, gritting his teeth as his opponent stepped back to evade once more. Meanwhile, Mello was completely calm and acknowledged the young man's strength. When he first got to the training hall, the fact itself was a huge hurdle, so he had to do everything he could. The former Demon King spun and seamlessly used the torque of his body to kick the enemy. Given his skill, Max manages to block the unexpected counter-attack, but the force was strong enough to send him a few meters back. He curses the enemy, infuriated by how things were going. Thanks to him, Nella's fighting level unexpectedly became better just from their continuous exchange. Just then, a shrill voice called the Max, addressing him with a pet name. He looked back. Annoyance spread across his face. Rose was by the arena, asking her son if he was okay and ignoring the men who were trying to stop her from coming closer. Regaining his composure, he calmly asks his mother not to use his nickname in public as it's unbecoming. She apologizes, reasoning that she's just worried, but he says there's no need for such feelings. After all, he's going to give all of it back to his opponent. With this, the two face each other once more. Preparing to do something, Max says he's going to use a move. He was saving for a warrior-level enemy. With a low and rumbling war cry, he gathered his energy, and even Mello noticed that the quality of his sacred aura changed. He moved, but left clones of his body where he stood. Even the former Demon King was taken by surprise as the young man used the holy technique, Invisible Shadow, to summon clones of himself. However, this was Val's technique, and the image of her using it was still fresh in his mind. There's only one person brave enough to pull it off. So how in the world was he doing it? Max arrogantly and proudly smirks, asking how he's going to deal with 4 of him. Delighted with his achievement, he announces that they are going to charge at the opponent from all directions. He even goes so far as to warn the young man about how tough it'll be. Unfortunately for him, Mello has seen his trump card before and knows that all he needs to do to break the technique is hit the main body. Max chuckles, certain that it is easier said than done. All 4 bodies leaked in, sharing the same speed as the original. Until the enemy manages to do something, he intends to deal as much damage as he can. Watching Mello dodge and move around, he says that he needs to fight back if he wants to win. He even mockingly asks if evading is the best action he's capable of taking. Despite the continuous jeering, Max had a secret, and he believes nobody has caught up yet. Everyone can see all 4 of him, but they're nothing but mere decoys in the grand plan. After all, the real body was hidden and was making its way right behind the target all this time. The real meaning behind the invisible shadow technique is to create alter ego decoys. With optical camouflage, the main body becomes invisible and free to land a fatal blow to the back of the enemy's head. Raising his sword, Max smiles in triumph, certain that victory was within his grasp. In that instant, Mello's elbow was driven right into the real body's face. The prodigy's nose was broken, not at all expecting to be hit while his technique was active. As he fell to the ground in pain, all the summoned bodies started disappearing and soon dissipated into nothingness. If one pays attention, they'll see that the technique is useless as it's unable to hide the real body's footsteps. Even Val said that the ability won't work on strong opponents and would just be a mere party trick. On his knees, Max propped himself up, struggling to even stand. He looked up and shrieked in horror, in disbelief over the tragic situation he was in.